see like a dragon decal, you're like, come on, dude. It's 2020. We're putting dragons on cars still? Like, what the is that? This is going to be episode 2 of my Pacific Northwest Driver Spotlight series. I'm here with DJ, also known as the one and only AkibaNightKids. Got a couple questions for you here. Yup. All right, question 1. What is this thing? Year, make, model? Ah, yes. So this is a 2005 Honda Miata. Now it's a 2005 Honda S2000. Some people say AP2. It's the AP2 V1 for all you nerds out there. So the 06 Plus models are more friendly to tuning, but this is more of like an AP1 where it's more analog, but just happens to have the F22 engine instead of the F20. When did you get the car, and what did it look like when you got it? I think 2018 is when I got it. I'll fact check that later. It was really bone stock. That was one of the key things I wanted when I first got this car, is just find a stock ass S2000. I didn't want one that just had like a bunch of, it's got wheels and it's already got suspension and exhaust and this and that. It's like I wanted bone stock, and I wanted to feel how it drives stock, and I wanted to really just enjoy it, how stock the car is, because they drive fine. They drive really well, just like in its bone stock form. So I had fun driving it when it had nothing on it, and it still doesn't have a whole lot on it, and I still really enjoy driving this thing. So I'm sure a lot of people know of your YouTube channel and what you do with the car, but how long have you been doing motorsports, and how did you get into it? In 2022 and the end of 2021, I was going like twice a month out, every month, just lots of track time, lots of seat time. I was at like every autocross event I could get my hands on, and a lot of road course stuff. But the thing is, I've only been tracking it for a year. Some people are like, what, really, only a year? It seems like you've been doing this for a while. And it's like, no, I've just been going nonstop from end of summer, fall 2021 to the end of 2022. There was one event that I did in 2020 with Chris and Chance, actually. We did one event. My job at the time, I couldn't line up Sundays that well. Also, at the time, I didn't really know how to sign up for the Evergreen Autocross. So by the time I found out there was an event, it'd be sold out. Yeah, once I got that locked down and I had a new job that had weekends open and stuff, it was nonstop, every other Sunday. So you started off at Evergreen Speedway doing autocross, pretty similar to what I did. Was there anyone who pushed you to do it, or was it something you wanted to do on your own? I've been wanting to do it on my own since I got the car. That was the whole reason why I got the S2000, is track. I wanted like a streetable track car that I could enjoy on the street, enjoy on the track, and just not have to worry too much about it. And yeah, I just want like a fun sports car. And I've been watching Tokyo Time videos for a long time, a local hero. Yeah, I would always watch his videos and it looked super fun. But as with most motorsport stuff, it's like, how do you sign up? Where do I go? How do I sign up? What days are it? How far ahead do you have to plan? One day, I think it was Chris who brought up like, hey, let's go to this Evergreen Autocross, and like, here's the link and everything. I was like, oh, so this is how you sign up. And then, since then, like I said, once I had a job that had the weekends open and stuff, and I knew how to sign up and how much it was and blah, 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 I would just start going as much as I could. Why did you choose an S2000, and what are the car's biggest strengths and weaknesses? So, everyone talks about their dream car, right? And whenever you hear about dream cars, it's like, oh man, I want like really expensive high-end cars and stuff. And I do have those cars in my dream list, but the S2000 has always been like one of those cars where I just really wanted one. It was actually the first car I learned how to drive a stick in. My dad owned an 04 Silverstone S2000, so the transfer over was like same car basically. And I grew up watching lots of Hot Version and Best Motoring, Keiji Tsuchiya stuff.
ド対決実現。ニューセリカがホンダ VTEC 軍団に挑む。グリッドは排気量とコストパフォーマンスのバランスで決定。ハンデたっぷり S2000。
恵比寿の東ですよ。この坂見てください。この坂、この坂を上がってこれるのは誰かねえ。この坂を這い上がってこれるか、 S2000 のように快適に涼しい顔して左打ちまで上がってくるか。今日は大人になってですね、皆さんを一台一台、コーナーで抜いていきたいと思います。
BM 初恵比寿で7台バトルスタート。絶妙なスタートを決めたタイプ R 兄弟。逃げるトヨタ勢に一気に襲いかかるか。続いて S2000 シビックスをホンダが1,2,3フィニッシュ。期待のセリカは4位にとどまった。
And just watching this 2000 go, I was like, man, this car is like unbeatable. It's unstoppable. It looks so fun. It's so great. So that's one of the reasons why I got the car. It's because it's one of my dream cars. It's got the Honda VTEC motor. It's really good on street. It really does emphasize how you can have a streetable low end on your tachometer, but then in the high end, it really feels like a sports car. This car is especially, like, sometimes I forget how fun the car is because I daily it. When I'm in traffic going to work, it feels like nothing. And then after, especially after long periods of not being able to drive it on track, it kind of just feels like nothing. And then once you put it over 6K or even 5K, it comes alive. It's a really crazy feeling. And I've always wanted, a rear-wheel drive car. I feel like a good sports car should be rear-wheel drive. There's nothing wrong with front-wheel drive. You can do a lot with front-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is also great, but I feel like rear-wheel drive is very raw. It really teaches you how to finesse when you drive. You can't just beat on it. You can't just point the steering wheel and mash on the throttle and mash on the brake. You have to finesse what you have to do. And so yeah, I've always wanted rear-wheel drive. So as far as strengths and weaknesses, the S2000. I'll start with weaknesses because everyone talks good about the S2000. It's part of that regular car reviews critique where he's like, you're supposed to love this car, right? Everyone loves it, everyone talks good about it, but I, as an owner, I will give more than enough shit on the S2000. So the car is heavy as fuck. Whenever I tell people how much it weighs, they're always like, ew! Excuse me? Because, you see it as a Miata. Miatas weigh like 2,200 pounds or something. This weighs, in its stock form, I think 2,800 without the driver. It's pretty heavy. That's as much as a BRZ, which kind of makes sense when you look at the size of a BRZ next to an S2000. I guess it makes sense, but as a roadster, especially when it's just 4-cylinder or naturally aspirated, it's pretty heavy. I wouldn't exactly say that this next part is a downside, but I feel like true sports cars should be rear-wheel drive and mid-engine. This is not mid-engine, it's front mid-engine. So it's not a bad thing, but I mean, if they put the engine in the back of this thing, oh man, 10s across the board. Another downside is, like I said, I like this car because I feel like it's a good balance between a street car and a track car. But it is kind of annoying with the drone, the exhaust. It's kind of a notorious S2000 thing of finding an exhaust that doesn't drone. Even the current exhaust I have drones a little bit at cruising speed, and really annoying. I'm someone that I like listening to my music in the car and everything, and I can't hear my music because the bass is just too loud with the drone in the car. At cruising speed, it's around 4K RPM, so not the best right there, but it's not the end of the world. But it is kind of annoying when you are driving with a friend who may not be a car person and you have to talk really loudly just to speak your mind. It's annoying. Another downside is price. Yeah, it's no secret that the prices of these cars have shot up to an insane amount, to a point where even I don't know if it would be worth buying an S2000, me personally. Even just without talking about the price of the car itself, it's just like buying parts for the engine, buying wheels and tires. It's 17-inch, so that eats into your budget. With these cars, unlike let's say a K20 or B series, whatever, you can get those engines from other cars. You know, with the K, it's like you got the RSX, you got TSXs, they come out of everything. But with this, it's like it only came out of an S2000, and they don't make them anymore. So it's hard to find prices that are reasonable, both aftermarket and OEM. Those are the downsides. Not too many. They don't damper down the experience that much, but I definitely say that the positives outweigh the negatives. Because in the end, I mean, you know, the positives, it drives like a sports car. I can take this out on the track and just have a complete blast. And it's stock form. When I first took it out, my first autocross, it was really just tires. No fancy brakes, no coilovers, no nothing. It was just, I had RS4 tires, which aren't even good for autocross. They're in fact terrible for autocross. And it's so much fun. The back end rotates really good. It's got just enough power where you have to make the most of it, but it doesn't feel like really slow and gutless. You have to work for it, which is fun in a track setting. Yeah, it's just a solid sports car. It's really fun to drive.
So I know you said you've done a little bit to your car. Let's go over what you have done to the vehicle, starting off with your suspension setup.
So the suspension I'm running are S3 coilovers, which is the same as you have just bought, and you're going to actually use it tomorrow, which is pretty cool. I'll always suggest S3 suspension to friends because coilovers are kind of a mixed bag, you know. You get what you pay for in a sense, but when you hit that middle ground, that's where it gets really muddy, and I feel like a lot of suspension out there says that they're good, but when you look into the detail, it's like you either overpay or you pay for a little bit on the lower end, and I say S3 suspension is the best for its price. It's nothing fancy, but it comes with everything that you need. The person that runs it, he's very responsive, and you can talk to him about your valving, your spring rates, this and that. He has good input because he's from Cali. He has his own car that he tests with. 12 K-springs in the front, 10 K-springs in the back. I think it does the job good for both street and on track. Brakes, they're the stock brakes, but I run a Project Mu Club Racer brake pads. Really love those. I've had no complaints with them on track. They don't fade at all after beating it all day. The brake dust is a bit aggressive, and it'll eat into your wheel coating if you're not careful, but I don't give a fuck. So my exhaust from the test bike back, Type 1 Racing, single exit exhaust, it's semi-mill. It's specifically the Evasive Motorsports version of their Type 1 Racing exhaust. Basically all that means is the regular exhaust that they sell has a circular muffler canister, so it's a bit louder but more drone. Whereas the one I have from the Evasive Motorsports spec, it's more of an oval canister, which helps with drone and it helps with the loudness. So it's really nice. You know, on the street, it's pretty quiet. You know, you can tell it has an aftermarket exhaust, but it's nothing crazy. But then when you're on throttle and when it's on track, it sounds pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. RPF ones. These are my daily RPF ones, so they're like 17 by 7 wide, 8 wide. I forgot, honestly. It's been so long. Here's the first set of wheels actually I got for the car. For my track wheels, they're 17 by 9 RPF ones. Tire and wheel combo goes like all the way out to the fender. Looks good. And then all last year I was running a RT660s, 255 all around. Really like those. RT660s are kind of off and on. Many of my friends have discussed this. I guess I got just like the good batch before they kind of got all iffy, I guess. So I ran them all year. They gripped really good. And other than that, I don't know, bride bucket seat. I now have a 11-pound flywheel. And that's it. It's pretty basic, really basic stuff.
What made the most difference in the way that the car behaved?
Coilovers, hands down. So one of the things about the stock S2000 is the suspension, right? So most cars, it's stiffer in the front, softer in the rear, and that's to induce understeer because it's, you know, for the average driver, understeer is a lot less scary if you deal with it. It's also, I won't say easier to correct, but your average normie, if something goes wrong, they'll slam on the brakes and then you slow down and the car can straighten out. And S2000, I don't know how many like stock cars like this will have it where it's stiffer in the back. And I would drive it stock, the back end feels like twitchy, it feels alive. And it's really fun the street, but definitely at higher speeds when you're at autocross or at a road course event, it could probably be a little scary. My first autocross event, I was constantly spinning out. I used to do toge runs all the time, and I would always be kind of timid of it like slipping out. When I switched that up to front stiff bias, including the sway bars, it made the car feel more neutral. So the car feels very neutral now, whereas back before it felt a little too twitchy.
Let's go over the last track season. I guess that would be 2022 summer. How many events did you do this season?
I went to every on-grid event. There was like a double weekend. There was the rainy day. There was a PIR day, an ORP day, and I think like 1 or 2 other ridge days. So that might be 7 on-grid events. That also includes 1 SCCA event at the ridge and 1 SCCA time attack at PIR. So between 8 and 10 like road course events, just beating on the car.
What happened at ORP?
Oh shit. My clutch! So yeah, my fucking clutch assembly, just like the assembly itself, just all crumbled apart. My master cylinder blew, the spring plate for the clutch, that broke. Yeah, I couldn't shift into gear. Well, I could shift into gear, but I could, once the car is on and everything's running, I couldn't go between gears. Clutch went out and I was stuck 300 miles from my house and I didn't have a trailer or a truck. It's funny because after the fact, everyone's like, why didn't you tell me? I could have let you use my trailer, this or that, but I'm like, this is my own problem because I'm the dumbass who drove out here with no backup plan. I mean, that's what happens when I've been running 7 events straight, plus all the autocrosses, no problem. So I was like, who cares if I'm far from home? It'll run fine, but yeah, it blew in the second session. So I want to go back to ORP and exact my revenge.
Which track that you drove last summer was your favorite and why?
ORP, hands down. That track is so fun, and I like the location more just because when we camp there, it's in the middle of nowhere, and all the stars are out, and the drive down is really nice and scenic. I feel like some people might be surprised because that's the day my car broke down, but the track itself is so fun. It's scary, but that's the fun of it. So that's why I really want to go back. I only got to really drive the track for half a session, so I want to go back and get the full day out of it, get a good time, and just enjoy myself out there.
So you said you've only been doing track days for about a year. You haven't been doing autocross for a super long time, and you seem like you're doing very well for yourself. What has helped you improve your driving so much over such a short period of time?
Going back to back, right? If you go let's say just twice a year, you go, you do your stuff, you learn, but by the time you come back, you lose everything. You lose the feel coming into, let's say, at the ridge, turn 1, 2. You lose the feel of oh, I gotta stay on throttle and I gotta hold down that fear in my stomach. You're gonna lose that, or you forget your brake zones, or you forget this and that. Because especially when you're driving, when you're in the moment, a lot of stuff just goes over your head. You start to shift weird, you do stuff weird. I won't say constant seat time, but having enough seat time to really keep the things that you learn, that helps. I think another thing though that I feel some people might not think about is racing is more than just the driver, it's also the car. You have to think about okay, my car is balanced this way, the car is like this, my tires are like that, my brakes are like this. You have to apply that when you drive. There's all of this basic stuff that you learn, trail braking and this and that, but it applies slightly different to each and every car because of the drivetrain, the weight balance, the this, the that, the aero, blah, blah, blah. You gotta apply that when you drive, right?
you should always have a plan before you go out onto track.
Over the last summer, me and you both drove with and met a lot of super cool people in the community in this area. Who are some of the favorite people that you got to drive with this summer, and who taught you the most about motorsports and driving in general?
Definitely not you. The crazy part about like the community, again, it's just so wild. Like a lot of these people, this is gonna sound kind of creepy, but I'll just say it. A lot of these people I've been following on Instagram for like a long time. Like I've been following them because I'm like, oh, they're from Washington. Oh, they have a cool car. Oh, they like race their car. That's sick. And then you watch them and you're like, oh man, someday I want to go out and like meet these people. Like Carlos Cortez with the Miata, Jack, Emilio. You know, again, I've been watching his YouTube channel like forever. Will, of course. You know, I've been following him since before he had like the Corvette, and like it was mostly just like his M3. You know, those are all the people that like I followed on Instagram before I had met them, and then been like, wow, like this is crazy. Like, but then there's the people that I've never knew about, and I met them through track. So like you know, who's this dude, this clapped out fucking EJ, and then it's like, oh, he's actually really good at driving, and like he can. No, he's like the Honda whisperer. He can just pull everything apart. He helped me fix my fucking S2000 clutch. Like, I'm really struggling in the engine bay. And this man's like, by the way, I hadn't bolted everything on the underside, so you're welcome. I was like, damn, okay. So many people, man. It's just crazy. The car community, the race community at least, it's just the nicest people. Everyone's willing to help out. When you first see these people, you think of them like up here, and you're down here. You're just some fucking nobody. Why would they even pay attention to you? But nah, man, like, you know, Mike from Apex Attack and Carl, who's, you know, like one of the fastest S2000 guys locally. They're just, you meet them and they're just dudes, you know? You just talk to them, you hang out, you all have a common interest. And that's how I've made like all my friends in 2022, and I feel so blessed, man. Like, they're all really cool and they help out and we hang, and it's a good time. So I'm really glad to have met all of them.
Some people would describe your driving style as reckless. What are your thoughts on that?
Is it reckless? Okay, yeah, I've spun out a good amount of times, and then I overrode the fuck out of my car. Here's the thing, though. I wouldn't say it's that reckless. Yes, I do override a lot. You know, Honda stuff. You gotta keep it high in the rev range. Like the power band in this is like between 6 and 8K, so like you gotta be up there. You know, I've learned though, like sometimes it's better to short shift so then you can lay down on the throttle and not have to like feather stuff too much, blah blah blah, race stuff. I actually would say stuff I'm trying to work on the most is trying to be smooth. Coming from autocross, everything in autocross is so snappy. You're in this turn, and by the time you even like have thought about what you did through that turn, you're at the next turn. It's just slam on the brake, slam on the gas, downshift, you know. Whereas at the track, you have a lot of time in between and during your turns where, you know, it's like you gotta be smooth with your steering, you gotta be smooth with your brake, you gotta be smooth with your gas pedal. That's something that Gabriel from New Age Motoring, he was at my first Turn 2 event. He was actually the person that gave me like the okay. He's an instructor there. He gave me the okay to be like, this guy can drive by himself. You seem to know what you're doing, so I'm going to give you the okay to drive by yourself. But one of the things you should work on is being more smooth. And I look at my old footage, and yeah, when I would go into my turns, I'm driving, trail brake, then it's like snap into my steering, right? Or, yeah, it was mostly with my steering. It's snap, and then, in the back of my head, again, this is the whole like being in tune with your car, right? I can sense my car is about to slip out, so I would be doing like micro adjustments like all the time. Whereas now it's like, it's fine if the car slips out just a tad. That's fine. It's not like it's just gonna spin out the second it loses grip. So I've been working on like being like smooth into my steering, and then like to maintain that steering angle instead of snap into the steering and then kind of wiggle the wheel and this and that. So yeah, I over-rev a lot, whatever, but I'd actually say that from the footage I see, it's more smooth. But yeah, I over-rev a lot, and I've shot into corners being like, all right, in this zone, you gotta come with full speed, right? And I come in full speed, oh shit, we're going way too fast, and then, you just gotta fly off track real quick, and sometimes you spin out, but everyone spins out, everyone goes off. It's no big deal, as long as you're not flipping the car, but it happens. It happens, you gotta risk it for the biscuit.
If you had to do it all again and you couldn't pick an S2000, what car would you pick?
Easy, I choose an MRS, hands down. Bro, like I said, a sports car should be mid-engine rear-wheel drive. I firmly believe this because there's a lot of reasons to it. The engine balance, right? You come into your brake zone, since there's no weight in the front, you can just turn in. You just turn. It's magical. I would get ride along sometimes with Emilio. It just turns. Like he just turns and it just goes. Whereas for me, it's like, I have to think a lot more about like trail braking and like putting the nose down and keeping the nose down, right? And that's because the engine's in the front. So once you straighten out, you can just lay down on the throttle and all the weight is already in the back. I've been into MR2s, and when they come through the corner, it feels so neutral. Like the car just carries through the turns. So.
Do you have any sort of mechanical background, or does tracking your only car forced you to learn how to work on your car?
Yeah, so I have no mechanical background whatsoever. It's why I hate working on my car. I don't know what I'm doing, but here's the thing. I think everyone should, if you have a passion for cars, you should work on your own car, right? You slowly realize it's just nuts and bolts and Lego pieces, Like, it's really not too hard once you really get your hands in there. Example, one of the first things I ever did with my car, I replaced brake calipers themselves in the back and all my brake lines. When it's your first time ever working on a car, and I don't even think I've changed oil, like, at that point. It was just like, oh, well, your rear calipers are fucked in C's. You gotta go replace that. And it's like, well, I can't afford bringing it to the dealership, so I guess I'll do it myself. So when I replaced my brake lines, it's like, oh, now I understand that feeling when people are like, oh, your pedal feels stiffer. You realize it's because of like the flex of like a rubber versus stainless steel braided brake lines. Like, you become more in tune with the car because now you understand the differences that you yourself put into the car. Yeah, I think everyone should work on their car at some point, beyond just like an exhaust. It'll help a lot.
Would you recommend daily driving your track car?
No, you should have two cars. But for me, right, it was like I had this budget, and it was like I could get, like a cheaper whatever car to track and also a cheap daily. Or you could put the sum total together and get one of your dream cars. But here's the thing, right? Yes, you should get two cars, because if your track car breaks down, you have another backup. And also there's stuff like, I can't really put all my wheels and tires in here, so if I need to go get my new wheels or get tires mounted on, it's kind of a pain in the ass to like sort it all out. But if you do have one car that does it all, I definitely suggest getting a stock car. That way it can reliably run, and when you do put stuff on, what's gonna go wrong if it does go wrong. No one's expecting you to go to the track with like this mega hyped out car. Get two if you can, but if you get one, just be smart about it.
Tell me about the livery and the thought process behind the design.
You wanna know the real reason why I fucking put a livery on my car? There's a reason why the car is parked in this direction. At autocross, I fucking clapped my car in a cone so hard. I put a huge dent on the passenger side door, and I had to like Bondo over it, and Again, I've never used Bondo before. I've never done dent repair. I've never painted. I fixed up the dent as best I could and it looked kind of jank. So then I was like, you know what? What if we just throw on some stickers? Yeah, then it's whatever, because then the damage looks less distracting. And of course, there's the dragon. Shenron from Dragon Ball Z to be exact. The dragon comes from, it's multiple things. A, I just love Dragon Ball. I grew up with that shit. So if I'm gonna put a dragon, it's gonna be Shenron. And it's funny because, you know, I feel like when you see some other cars out there on the street and you see like a dragon decal, you're like, come on, dude. It's 2020. We're putting dragons on cars still? Like, what the fuck is that? The thing is, growing up, I've always had this fascination with dragons and Eastern culture and history and lore and all that stuff. It's always really stuck with me. And then as I've gotten older, there's this ancient tale that's always stuck with me. And it's the story of the carp and the dragon gate. And what it is it's a story about a carp that fights its way upstream and up a waterfall. When it gets to the top of the waterfall, it passes through a gate, a torii gate. And after it passes through the torii gate, it becomes a dragon. And that's the first dragon that's ever existed. So it's like it's a story of facing adversity. You know? It's a story that sticks with me because it's like you get dealt bad hands, but it's like, what are you gonna do, huh? Just sit and wallow all day? No, you gotta fight through it. Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's cool. And I mean, it looks alright, but yeah, I've always really liked that piece of lore.
You're the man behind the AkibaNightKids YouTube channel. A lot of people, including myself, really enjoy watching your videos. And what's your biggest inspiration behind the videos that you make?
That actually means a lot, you're saying. I just want to say right now, for everyone who does watch, I appreciate you watching. It doesn't have many subscribers or many views or many likes, but like when I hear that from like my friends and stuff, and even people that I've never met, be like, bro, I love watching your videos. Like, this isn't me kissing up, this is me actually saying like, I like your videos. It means a lot to me. I mean, it starts with the hot version stuff, where it's like, here's like, you know, cartooning, and it's all about like learning the race stuff and seeing track stuff, like seeing racing more than just like, you know, there's so much more to racing than just the driving and just what you see on track. The people, and like, I find that very like interesting, and that's why I liked hot version a lot, because yeah, you see the cool racing and the cool cars, but you also get to talk to like the people that, like, you know, the head figures of these tuning companies and like the racers and stuff. Like, again, the car is more than just the car and the way it drives. There's so much more to it. So there's that. You know, again, big inspiration to Toge Time. When I first uploaded my first video, I actually messaged Emilio and I was like, hey, is it cool if I upload this? You watch his videos and it's like a vlog, it's vlog style, where it's like, hey guys, I'm going to the track today. And you watch the footage and you watch him talk to friends. And it's what interests me so much, because it's more than just, hey, I went to this event, here's me driving. I think it's more interesting to see all the other things. You know? Me pulling up with the gang and just us shooting jokes around and me being like, oh, what are you gonna do today? Oh, I'm gonna fucking bin my car. Like, oh, hell yeah, you know. The reason why I chose AkibaNightKids doesn't come from like a solo thing. It's more of like, I want it to be more of a community thing. Yes, a lot of the videos, if not all the videos, mostly focuses on me and my driving my car, but that's why I always have like the beginning and end where I go around and talk to friends, because it's like, you know, Cali has like a big track scene. Here in Washington, we have a great track scene. You know, some of the coolest, nicest people, and a lot of them are really talented drivers, or like they have really cool cars, and it's like, I want to highlight that. I want to be like, oh, here's Chris and his cool ass Miata, you know? I've always liked Chris's Miata. Our friend Chance, he has like the supercharged Miata. That was really cool. There's your car and all your stuff, like, you know, great driving, and like you're building your other motor right now. That's good stuff. I want to put more driving footage from other people, but like, I want to show like the P&W like racing story. I want to show not just my side of everything, but like everyone's stuff.
So both your Instagram and your YouTube channel have the name AkibaNightKids. Give me a little bit of info on what that means.
We'll start with Night Kids, I guess. So it's obviously it's an initial D reference. Some people don't get that. I really like the term Night Kids. You have to be a man-child, right, to fucking enjoy racing and enjoy cars. Like, car stuff is like, it's just Hot Wheels, but for grown-ups. Financially, a terrible decision to be a car guy. I mean, in 2020, when we were all out of a job, I was just like hitting Togi like every fucking weekend. Like, go out 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and come home at like 3 in the morning. Like, so yeah, that's where Night Kids comes from. And then Akiba comes from Akihabara, which is a district in Japan where it focuses a lot on like otaku and like weeb and nerd culture, you know, Gundams and anime stuff and video games. It's just like a personal thing, and a lot of my friends share the same interests of like anime and video games and Gundam and all that kind of shit. Like, car guys and Japanese stuff, it goes hand in hand. So that's where AkibaNightKids comes from.
What are your goals for the upcoming season?
This year, I want to do the on-grid time attack. When you go out and you set your PB and stuff, there's always like hypotheticals here and there, right? Like with time attack, there's literally an official list. Like, here's the fastest guy, and here's the slowest guy. And it's not me being like, I'm trying to get number 1, baby. It's like, no, I just want to just see where my car places compared to people that have a similar car. In time attack, it's like, because of class rules, all the cars should be on a similar level, and I want to see where my driving and my car places in that. Focus on the time attack, but I also just want to focus on myself, you know, just hang out with friends and just enjoy life, and yeah, so yeah, that's my goal for 2023 race season.
Well, cool, man. That's all the questions that I have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for showing up on this video, and thank you everybody for watching.
Yup.